Hey guys, this is Exos Heroes with another Exos Heroes video. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the new patch. It's pretty controversial. I want to talk about, at least try to be constructive and discuss where I think the patch went wrong, what they could possibly do to fix it, and currently which direction I think could potentially make Exos Heroes better. So with that, let's get into it. I don't want to immediately turn on all the good that Exos has done. I think we've been getting consistent updates. We've been getting new content pretty regularly. I think just recently, these last two patches have been just really bad content to play. I'm not having fun with the new content. I think the balance is completely out of whack. I wanted to look at the core game. What do I do in game? Am I having fun playing that part? I've been so focused on, content, stuff like that. It's like, if I wanted to just play Exos, what is my thoughts on that? And especially if I was a new player, when it comes to relatively casual player, maybe even free to play, what would be my thoughts on the new story? Like the new harder version of the campaign with really good rewards that came out, and then also chapter 11. I think that's really poor design choice on what they did. If a new player was coming in and then they didn't have the experience that we have, we've had about over 100 days playing the game. If you started from launch, chapter 1 through 10, relatively easy. You just needed a couple of good fated heroes. It makes sense for a story. Usually stories are something that you do early in the game, and it's going to kind of get the player used to the game, going to get you invested in the character. So when you actually pull them, you kind of have a story there. They actually did a really good job with that from chapters 1 through 10. It's the first thing you do. It makes perfect sense. Now, chapter 11 is literally the hardest content in the game, or second hardest if you want to look at the other revamped versions of the story that came out a few weeks ago prior to this patch. Things I wanted to address on just how poorly that was released. First is just from a progression standpoint, it makes no sense. It's way too extreme. It's confusing to players. It's just clunky. I think everyone could agree that it just doesn't make sense. If you want to make campaign the hardest part of the content, it should have been that way from the beginning. Just immediately jumping it up to the hardest part it's just dumb. It's just bad implementation. And then second, and I think most importantly, the difficulty doesn't make sense and is not fun to play. And I think that's a little harder to touch on. I think there's a lot of issues, but it's really hard to kind of pack it down. I just think it's very confusing, even for a player that's been playing, since launch, where the power scaling is going. It's just completely unbalanced. It's not a fun challenge. It's not like, okay, we're going to get them, even with all the best characters. Like, I have a lot of good characters in the game. You shouldn't be getting consistently one shot damage in this game. Ever since the campaign, I just have the expectation I'm going to get one shot regardless of the character. It's not like, okay, this is really difficult, but we can try to, like, maybe with these characters, with this gear, we can try to do that. And I think that there's a lot of other issues that we can talk about because of that. And I think a lot of it is because of gear in this game is just its own issue completely that needs to be addressed. And I think it's one of the things that I'm wishing they would address, and they did address it. And I feel like they addressed it in the worst way possible, but we can get to that later. Based on where I'm at in the game, I'm in-game player. I have the best characters. I have the best gear in the game possible. And then I go into the campaign and I get one shot. Like, I've watched an Illum, level 87, full blue gear, one shot. Makes no sense. And I think a lot of people think that makes no sense, especially imagine if you had, less characters. You'd feel hopeless. And then find that the person that actually has the gear that you want, or the characters you want, also feels hopeless. Not saying I didn't beat it. I have beaten it. It's just very frustrating to, like, I just stopped playing. Like, you would think this would be fun. These would be fun challenges. Path of Trials, right here. Go through here. This is like in-game content. This is like stuff you want to progress through. It is not fun to play at all. And I was thinking, here with what they were doing with this very hard thing, they were having the forced difficulty where it takes, this to get to normal or to get to extreme is just impossible. I figured they were just going with the impossible route, and then it would always be kind of difficult. And then and that's where the challenge comes from. Which can be good. I've had a lot of fun doing that, having these forced challenges against myself. For example, in Star Wars Galaxy Heroes, trying to go for legendary characters that were, like, I was undergeared. Like, I barely meet the requirements, but I'm undergeared. And, like, let's see if I can beat that. A lot of those challenges actually got fun. There was a puzzle there. I was like, okay, yes, there's RNG involved, but I was like, okay, I need to take out this damage dealer, and then I need to take out the tank. Like, I needed an order of operations that would be fun. Or, okay, so since this character's weak, now I actually really got to use these characters that you almost never use in the game. It would be like in this game, you needed to use 5 legendaries you never use, but it's fun because since these are characters you never use, you get to really appreciate the game. But it's actually feels like it's a game, not, okay, I need to dodge getting one shot constantly. And it's obviously not fun. I could talk about that forever, but that's obviously not fun. So then if we look if we ignore all the stuff that they added, for example, let's say they added all this content. They added what is it? They added the new gear. So they got the Awakening, they got Signature Force, they added more core memory, they added Blue Fake Core, and then they added these 2 challenges. So this is the content they added essentially. The last patch they added this campaign, they added Chapter 11 campaign, and then they added these 2 challenges, the Lunatic challenges for Solar and Lunar. That's all they added really when it comes to actually playing the game. And every single version of one of those pieces of content is miserable to play. Absolutely miserable. It makes no sense. Here, look at these characters. Like, these are good characters. Not the best gear on Xeon. I ended up moving all the gear to other characters. We got decent gear on Magi. We got FC Rachel with good gear, and then we got okay gear. No, this is like legendary gear on Otard. And then we also have Heckin here on solid gear. I'm intentionally not using Annie, even though I have Annie. I'm intentionally not using her because let's see what happens to my character when I get attacked. For example, I have Heckin here. Heckin's gonna go first. And then he's going to get countered. Let's attack a guy that we know is going to get countered. Or that's actually going to counter. So he does that. Boom, he's dead. Literally 5,000 damage. Now, Rachel has better stats. So here, let's attack this guy because this guy, is going to get broken. Go here. Now, boom, half his health completely gone. Right, didn't even crit. If that crit, he was dead. And he's full. Let me just show you. Full. Level 60 gear, even though these are not good rolls, he got, even the Avarice, like the Shelter of Avarice, all rolled with at least 1 Shelter of Avarice on all of these. Full gear, essentially. Unless you do some crazy stuff to get this to like level 62, whatever. Full gear, 1 counter did half of his health. No crit, half of his health. So literally the strategy becomes just one thing. It's just, there's only one possible thing to do, which is to try to break AoE break. Best way to do that probably, if you have Annie, then it's super easy. You literally just do that. You give it to someone goes that has an AoE, and then you make sure that they're transcended, and then you can break 2 stones. But that's horrible. Like, that's not fun at all. Like, I've been playing games to try to figure out, like in Raid, Dragon, Spider, all those things were very hard, but there's so much content on it because there's so many different ways to beat it. You have so many options for gear. Like, I'm leading this, talking about this because I want to talk about I think the big issue with this game is there's absolutely zero diversity when it comes to what you can do with your characters. Literally everything that they added in this game, in this new patch, is just raw power increases. And so what I mean by raw power, like, what do I mean by that? So Signature Force, which is probably the most horribly implemented garbage piece of content I've ever seen. Probably talk more about it later, but like this, you have to transcend this character, a transcended version of a character that's very rare to give you an idea of how little of the generals I pulled. So general, like the top 5 characters now, top 6 characters, the rarest characters in the game. How many I've actually pulled? Here, let me go to the journal. I'll show you how many I pulled. And then this is coming from a whale intentionally doing content for this game. I pulled these 3: the Bathory, Rachel, Garf. And this is very disingenuous on how many of these I've actually pulled, because Rachel was the first one I pulled. That's the only true one I pulled. And he was like my first 10 pulls, something like that. From then on, from day 3, day 4, I only pulled Bathory because of the string. I only pulled Garf because of the original selector in the beginning of the game. I've never pulled one of these other characters again. I don't know if that's crazy unlucky, but we go back to Signature Force, and look at what it's expecting of you, which is absolutely ridiculous. Not to mention, the specific ones they chose were Shufrakins and Janais, which are the ones people don't want that much. The ones everyone focused for, everyone wanted the actual selectors for, were all Bathory, all Rachel, all Garf. And then for them to only implement the new one, and then the 2 lesser of the 2. Yes, now Shufrakin is meta in PvP, but that wasn't always the case. That's a very new thing. It's just kind of annoying to me. And then not only that, you need to have a transcended Janai and then sacrifice her, which is just a horrible mechanic. The last thing you ever want to do is sacrifice the character you just, like, what? And not only that, but a transcended one just to get a ton of damage. Like, this is crazy. This is stupid amount of damage. 4,000 nature damage every single time you consume 1 mana. As the number of mana consumption increases, the elemental damage increases. Reduced damage of area of effect damage. I hate this mechanic so much. So that alone deserves its own video. But point being, raw power in a weird way. Okay, in multiple hard, horrible feeling ways. If like, let's say one of my favorite characters is Janai, I use her in everything. The only way to do that is to sacrifice the Janai. Then the argument is like, don't do it. But it's like, making your character stronger should be like the fun thing in the game. You should be excited to do it. Okay, next thing is going to be awakening. Awakening is another way, super clunky way of implementing this. So the game needs something to do with gear. All you have in this game, there's no options. I started to realize this as I was playing the game when it came. The issue with gear in this game is there's no potential options. What you have is these pieces of gear on the top are going to be critical hit and critical damage, and then speed hit. And then they fluctuate just by a little bit of the stats. Okay. And then you're going to get like the same damage stats down here. There's no way in this game to be like, okay, you know what? I actually got a roll here. This roll has 150 critical hit, but only 4% critical damage. Or wow, I just got, a whole bunch of speed here. Like let's say 8 to 9 speed, but then I only got 20 critical hit here, and then I got like 15 critical damage, or something like that, where it's like you're finding combinations of what you want to do, what you don't want to do, but you choose how you want to make the character. What if I want to do just a ton of critical hit, but not that much critical damage, and then not that much speed? Like for example, and a ton of hit, because mages miss a whole bunch, because if you look at their hit rating, less than physical attacker, so you watch it miss a whole bunch. For example, let's say for Diva, she doubles her critical damage. So I want to focus on a ton of critical damage, and maybe pair her with Annie to cover up the lack of critical hit I'm going to have. Like let's say, for example, on, Rachel, I want to make him fast. I want to make him super fast. Same with tanks. Tanks have a lot of CC. They could be interesting, but they also, then here's the next thing. I hope I'm not losing you guys, which is base stats in this game are garbage. And because what they do is they hinder all creativity. There's zero creativity because of the base stats. So for example, Digas is even if you took my suggestions and you added that to the game, we're able to manage all that. You can maybe rework the embodiment of avarice to actually be able to allow us to do that. Let's say you took all those suggestions. Base speed in this game makes it to where it's literally impossible to ever do that. And I've never seen that in the game. Like if Star Wars, these other games, they at least lend themselves to Raid, for example. Raid, Star Wars are the two examples I'm thinking of, where you can actually manipulate the turn order of characters that you would want to go or not go. So, for example, Digas is always going to be last, like in a rotation, because if you look at his base stats here, attack speed is, it's like 31 or 32, but he has gear on right now. So that's why you're seeing, 45. But compare that to Rachel, his base is like 95 or 96. So he's always, doesn't matter. Like let's say, even if you literally put every stat point into speed in this hypothetical scenario, Digas would never go faster than Rachel, because they've made the gaps between each different character so high. For example, then Diva will never go slower than Rachel, because 106 is never going to be beaten by 206 or 126, which is very limiting, very limiting. Then another issue, critical hit and block and all that stuff are not defined characteristics. I don't know how much critical hit chance I got, even if it is a chance. Is it a guaranteed chance, or is it, always going to be, some kind of, is there any way to get 100% critical hit? Is it possible? Are these linear numbers on an exponential scale? Do they exponentially get better? Do they exponentially get worse? For example, if I put in, like, let's say on my Diva here, I have plus 274 critical hit. Is that critical hit rating exponentially getting less valuable? I'm getting diminishing returns. Like, so the first 150 critical hit was really effective, but then the next, 120 was like absolutely useless, because it just fell off a cliff on how useful each one of those points were. Same thing for block, same thing for defense. We have no idea. They don't tell us. That's a problem. It makes it really frustrating to recommend things, because I'm literally, I don't know. You mean, also at the same time, Raid had that same issue. I would literally ask them, I'd be like, hey, I really want to understand exactly how turn meter works. And then they would be like, oh, we can't release the, we can't release our intellectual property. So a lot of these games do that for, God, I have no idea. It'd be like, hey, let's play a game of chess. And then I try to ask you how the horse moves. Like, oh, what do I do? How do I move this? What does this do in this game? I don't want to release my intellectual property. You just gotta, sometimes it goes here, sometimes it goes there. I mean, like based on the situation, we have no idea. I mean, like, well, actually, we do have an idea, but you won't. It's so frustrating that so many games do this now. Back to my original topic on gear, on how these are the best characters. Let's say I'm on this tier of characters, like right here. But if I had that option, or if I had that flexibility to allow creativity in the game, then I wouldn't feel so hopeless when I go back to the campaign and try to actually play the game. Because I'm going to go in there and be like, okay, well, I can make, let's say I can make my DGOS faster, and my DGOS now he has CC that I didn't have before. And good thing he goes first, so I can at least CC them. Because right now, literally the only option when it comes to either the new campaign or when it comes to the new challenges is to, okay, I need someone to AoE, and then they're going to break 2 stones, or they're going to break 3 stones, and that's horrible. It's mindless. It's not fun. And then now I sit there, and then now they're broken, and now I realize just how much health they actually had. They had so much health. Like I sit there, when it comes to the lunatic version of this challenge, I'll break him immediately because my Annie could break 3 stones. And then, which assuming she doesn't die because he immediately one-shot someone, which has been an issue from the beginning of the game, but I'd be okay with it because it's a boss. And then also, you have Bathory in here that saves you from it. And it kind of makes you start to not appreciate that, like, everyone's experiencing that the boss just one-shot someone. Horrible design mechanic, not good game mechanics at all. But assuming everyone survives, you get to the main boss. You have a 1 in 5 chance of someone dying because it's red, so there's no way to prevent it unless he gets dodged or something, which is just pure RNG. Then you break him. Then you realize that it literally takes multiple turns of literally just critting, like full on 20 to 30k crits to finally kill this guy. Which is very discouraging as well. Annoying that it's so limiting on what you can do to play the game. Now that's my opinion on what's going on. Why does everything feel so whaley in this game? Because the content that came out is not fun. You don't even want to play the content. So all you're seeing is, oh, here, buy this pack, buy that pack. Here's this new way to increase your power. Here's this. There's no creativity. It's literally just mindlessly. Here, now this character does more damage, or now mindlessly this character hits harder, or like I'm gonna need to crush all my gear into it. It's just all directly. I spend gold, I spend resources to make them go up vertically, instead of thinking, oh, here in this content, here in campaign or whatever. I think based on what I've been doing and playing on the campaign, this new content, who would be really good here? I think, maybe Diva would be really good in this content because of how it's machined, on how you need to be fast, on how I can, make sure that she, crits or whatever. Or maybe I could be like, Mahar is going to be really good because obviously we need someone with CC. We need someone that's tanky enough to withstand the hits, not just get one shot. Like there's none of that thought process. It's literally just, here, let me be miserable. Let me try to figure out a way to not die instantly. Oh, here, I figured out the strategy, but the strategy is a 1 out of 5 chance to even win. And then I just sit here bashing my head against the wall with the best gear, with the best characters. I think that's why this patch is so poorly received, is because of that. It's a lot of systemic issues. Normally, I do not like to do this. I do not like to complain about the game. I just want to play the game. And because if we just get into the mode of constantly complaining over and over about this, it just creates a toxic environment. Like there's a lot of Reddits out there that are completely toxic and not enjoyable to me, because there is parts of this game I do enjoy, and I don't want to just sit here and just circle jerk over how poorly designed this is. Also, another thing too, just from playing a lot of mobile games, is I've noticed that a lot of they have an idea for a patch, and then because they don't really understand the game as much as we do, they'll break that patch up into like multiple chunks, and then, okay, we can release this much here, we can release this much here, and the second and third part of the patch make the first part make sense. But because they packaged it in a way where it doesn't, maybe to no fault of their own, maybe because they're incompetent, I don't know, but because of how they packaged it, it makes it to where, holy crap, this is horrible. Everyone hates this. Oh, okay. This plus this, it kind of makes sense. This and this plus this, okay, it makes a ton of sense. But then they got all this ill will from here going around here, because a lot of people are saying, oh, they're just trying to milk the game. They're just trying to, bleed people dry, which I would agree with. but they actually release content. They've been doing that constantly. I've been constantly saying, look at what they've actually been doing versus what Raid has been doing. They actually release the content. I would say Raid's base content is actually better than Exos, but they're at least releasing new stuff. They've proven that. I believe they deserve that benefit of the doubt to bring more content. I feel like it's really fair weather fan of us to just completely neglect all the stuff that they've done, especially the things I've been happy about as a former player of other mobile games. Then the second I'm upset with a patch, then I just immediately go, oh yeah, they're just trying to milk us. They're just trying to take our money. And that's it. I'm trying to be productive. I'm trying to be because weirdly, a lot of these games don't have the required things in the game to actually make the game good. I think this game does. I think a lot of the stuff in this game is actually really good. So on a positive note, I would like them to, focus. They need to decide where they want to be. I think their direction needs to be either PvP focused or PvE focused. And there's a lot of cool stuff they can do with a PvE focus or a PvP focus in the game. Or maybe if they're bold enough, they can do both, but if they can actually do both well. For PvP, I think tag is something that's good. Maybe do something like war, where like air squadrons, where we battle like war in Marvel Strike Force, or Grand Arena / Territory War in Star Wars Galaxy Heroes. That would be a really cool thing to implement when it comes, if they're going to be really PvP focused. They currently already have the battling system when it comes to clans, but I think they could do more than that. It'd be really fun to be able to set defenses, and then you have to take in multiple offenses, and then they can start to add team synergy more than just the general and plus a couple other characters. And then next, I think that would be a really cool way. Or they can just do like a Grand Arena style from Star Wars, where you set your defenses, and then you have to you can't use your defense and those same characters on offense. You have to choose, and then you'll be able to battle against people, and then they'll have their set defenses, and you take whatever characters you have left and then fight their offenses. I think that would be a really cool thing as well with this game. And then on the PvE side, I think, me personally, my favorite part of the game has been the Holy Dragon Grounds. I think there's a lot of potential there. I relate that with the clan boss in Raid a lot. And I think if they turn the Holy Dragon Grounds, first thing what they should do is make it a little harder, and then make it manually controllable, make it this indefinite thing, but then the rewards need to be drastically increased or changed a little bit, because eventually, as you'll start to realize, you play this enough, faded weapons don't really do it for you. You eventually get to enough of them where, okay, I got another one. I don't care. The things I care about are the gear, and then I care about pulls. Obviously, I want more pulls. The thing about Raid is they have a random RNG to their drops, but the further you go in the clan boss, like when you get to Ultra Nightmare and the clan boss, which yes is hard for a lot of people, but once you get there, then that's where you start to win. You start to daily get chances of like legendary tomes, but mainly the equivalent of pulls in this game, which would be a sacred shard or a void shard or ancient shards, but that would be like the equivalent of like 70 to 100 Zest, for example. And I think that would be a really cool thing to implement for something especially as hard as Holy Dragon Grounds. Because the thing about Holy Dragon Grounds, unlike the new content that they've added, is it's hard, but it's actually rewarding to play and fair when you actually get better at the game and improve at it. Like I went from struggling immensely when I first started playing this game, and now I clear it consistently, and that's a good feeling. I've progressed. I've gotten better characters, and I progressed, and I've gotten better scores. But the rewards definitely do go up. And in the beginning, I was really excited about getting faded weapons, but now I've progressed off. Like if you look at my account, I just have too many of them. You mean like I have like 15, 20 weapons? Like what's the point? What, just another one? You mean like yes, there's exclusives which are yes very cool, but there should be more. You should be getting gold. You should be getting, pulls potentially, like rarely, but yes, you should get like 70s S, because, I'm not expecting like, 700, but I think, one pull as in versus, an 11 pull would actually be really, especially on a daily piece of content, would actually be really cool and reward people for furthering on. Then not only that, they have it built into the game to keep progressing. Like, oh, people are starting to clear phase 4. That they just added, that is a new mechanic that would be really interesting to try to tackle, especially if we could play it manually. And then next would be the they can do like a phase 5, and it's even harder. Or what you can do is you can sim battle after a certain amount of attempts. You can sim battles 1 through 3, and then you just do 4, 5, and like 6 or whatever when they start adding more and more, kind of like the equivalent of Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare, and that would really add to the depth of this game. the cool thing about it is it's already in the game. So that's why I'm encouraged to keep playing this game. But at the same time, there's a lot of big concerns that I'm starting to have, especially with the direction they're taking with the new content. I definitely wanted to wait a few days to be able to like sort my thoughts out and think about this, because I just don't want to react. My initial reaction was frustration, especially with like Signature Force. I think that is still a joke. This is by far, if they literally deleted this piece of content, I would be totally happy. They can delete it, and it'd be stoked. I'm sure there's whales out there that really want to be able to differentiate themselves because they have 7 Jedi's, but I think for 99.9% of the player base, that's ridiculous content. So don't want to be on a negative note. I'm trying to be constructive when it comes to my criticism of this game. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys agree or disagree. And with that, I'm out.